Greetings, my friends. I want to thank you all for subscribing. I want to thank all of my channel members for supporting me in this endeavor to save pop culture. And if you are not subscribed, please consider supporting this channel. We need you. Thank you. My friends, there are questions that weigh heavily on my mind when it comes to Star Wars. What happened to Jon Favreau to suddenly cause the quality of his work to plummet? What went wrong with Season 3 of The Mandalorian? The Mandalorian was the last best hope of Star Wars fans who were sickened by Kennedy's incompetent brand of feminist propaganda disguised as entertainment. In its first 2 seasons, The Mandalorian was a show that ranged from mediocre to excellent, and its Season 2 finale, featuring the return of Luke Skywalker, set the internet on fire and broke all Disney Plus records. It demonstrated conclusively that given the right production team, Lucasfilm under Disney could get Star Wars right. They raised the emotional stakes. They showed us Luke Skywalker at the height of his powers, plowing through dark troopers that had been all but impossible for the Mandalorian to handle with the grace and ease of a Jedi Master. The rather pointlessly cute and grating Baby Yoda was finally redeemed in a way, with an arc that would have sent him off to learn the ways of the Force at Luke's feet. Mando bid a teary goodbye to Grogu. Moff Gideon was defeated. All in all, the promise of that season finale was bright, and poor moribund Star Wars had a pulse again. Miracle of miracles. But even before Season 3 began, every promise the Season 2 finale made was broken and squandered. Grogu left Luke Skywalker's training to return to Mando in Book of Boba Fett, so all that teary farewell shit was for nothing. Grogu didn't learn anything from Luke, so that was a crock of shit. And son of a bitch, come Season 3, we're right back to where we started, with a completely unrealistic and increasingly silly 50-year-old baby who can't say a damn word after living half a century. Hint to prospective parents out there. If your baby still can't talk after 50 years, he's disabled. This medical advice is brought to you courtesy of Prescott Pharmaceuticals and the Society for the Prevention of Bears. And Luke Skywalker vanishes again. Ha! And it just gets worse from there, folks, as Season 3 meticulously and relentlessly dismantles and mocks every single thing that was good about The Mandalorian, leaving fans to, well, leave. I have an update on the ratings drop I reported Wednesday, with new figures leaked from behind the magic curtain, and I can tell you that yes, it's even worse than in that previous report, and I'm not surprised. Because this show has become something of a parody of itself this season, and I can't help but wonder, what happened to Jon Favreau? Because something has gone wrong with him and his writing, and I'm struggling to figure out exactly what happened to him between Season 2 and Season 3. I have a theory that Jon Favreau is sending us coded messages of distress all through this 3rd season, and by the end of this video, I will have laid out my case that Jon Favreau is trying to tell us all something he cannot admit in public.
Yeah, it's like night and day between the last 2 seasons of Mandalorian. It's like KK snuck into his room one night and left a giant alien plant pod next to his bed. Next day, Favreau was a shriveled husk, and a pod person Favreau went into work, ruining Mando at the bidding of his new mistress, the Eye of Sauron. It may surprise you to find that I'm not an optimist.
Wow, my worldview has been shattered.
I know. My sunny disposition notwithstanding, I am pessimistic about Favreau. I feel that he was a shill all along, a KK agent in disguise, just biding his time to strike.
That's absurd, O Skull of Calderon. By their deeds shall ye know them. And Favreau's deeds clearly were skewed toward a respect for Star Wars. We never would have gotten Luke Skywalker otherwise. Luke Skywalker's return did nothing to further Kennedy's narrative that girl power is the bestest ever. No, we must look elsewhere for an explanation as to what went wrong with Jon. Before I share my thoughts on Jon Favreau's tragic fall, let's review the suckage of Season 3, examine the wreckage of the season, and talk about what my Hollywood spies are saying about the ratings for Episode 7. Now, if you're enjoying Season 3, well, God bless you, more power to you. But I have been unable to enjoy it much myself, and increasingly, I've been horrified by this season, which we've been reviewing weekly on my Wednesday show, Pop Culture Breakdown. We started off with an okay episode, a bunch of Mandalorians battling a giant alligator monster. It looked good anyway. Mando returned, and the armorer told him that to redeem himself for removing his helmet, he must bathe in the living waters of Mandalore. Mando fights off some pirates on Navarro to help out Apollo Creed, and all in all, not a bad first episode. Episode 2, however, begins the slip slide to suck when Din Djarin goes to Mandalore and has to get his ass saved twice by Bo-Katan. Twice. On his own show. Suddenly, Bo-Katan is hanging out with Baby Yoda. We spend more time aboard Bo-Katan's ship than aboard Din Djarin's ship. Bo-Katan picks up Mando's Darksaber and saves his ass with it. Bo-Katan sees a mythosaur in the waters. Bo-Katan is everywhere, folks, and Mando is pushed into the background. It previously appeared that they were setting up Mando to become Mandalore, which would have changed canon and signaled a shift away from the KK corrupted timeline. Well, did that happen? Ha! Fuck no. Next episode is mostly about an Imperial scientist who was working on cloning, getting tortured by the New Republic, which is then incompetent enough to let one of Moff Gideon's goons rip the information out of the scientist's head and right under the New Republic's nose. Next episode features more nonsense about Baby Yoda training to be a Mandalorian. A foundling gets abducted by a giant flying reptile critter, which begs the question, if Mandalorians are so badass, how come they have so much trouble dealing with an alligator and a pterodactyl? Holy shit, a squad of Marines would have handled those critters without breaking a sweat. And we're supposed to believe the mighty fighting Mandalorians have major drama fighting a fucking alligator? And they can't shoot down a big flying reptile who has pulled this shit before on them, by the way. So they should have been ready for it. Bo-Katan takes the lead on this mission as well, being the only one of them that can track the beast, who conveniently waits over 24 hours to do anything at all with the kid it stole.
As bad as this sounds, folks, this is as good as Season 3 gets, and it'll never be that good again. See? Season 3 is part eggplant.
Then it turns into a fucking cantaloupe, as everything goes straight to hell. In Episode 6, Jack Black and Lizzo show up. We see Christopher Lloyd audition for the next Alex Kurtzman Mummy movie, and Baby Yoda gets knighted for doing absolutely nothing at all. Din Djarin does an impression of Jon Snow, going up to Bo-Katan in front of all the Mandalorians, saying, "McQueen" to her, and "I don't want it," as he just gives her the Darksaber, thus completing the absolute negation and erasure of every single positive plot thread laid out in Season 2. Grogu becoming a Jedi Knight? Not gonna happen. Grogu and Mando separated? They got back together in just 2 episodes of another series. No more Luke Skywalker, and all that bullshit with the Darksaber, with Mando trying to learn how to master it, how wielding it promises to make him ruler of Mandalore. Would Bo-Katan have to fight him to the death for the Darksaber? Nah. All those plot points were tossed away like garbage. Like Favreau just didn't care. It all came to nothing. And then this last episode seemed to collide squarely with the hated sequel trilogy, smashing all hopes for Star Wars fans. And this downward slide is reflected in the alleged ratings decline for Season 3. According to a source inside Disney and/or Lucasfilm, and please bear in mind that since I cannot personally verify these alleged ratings figures, I'm presenting them as unverified rumor, and you should take everything I'm about to tell you with a grain of salt. Here's what all this suck has allegedly led Mando to. Quote, "The show still hasn't made it over 50,000. At the rate it's going, it may hit 100,000 by Monday, and the subs are steadily declining. I think it's safe to say Disney has killed its flagship show, unless by some miracle, the last episode pulls off something major, unquote. Sadly, I think it's too late to save Mando or Star Wars. Season 3 almost seems like a parody of what came before. Bo-Katan is now the star of the show, and I wouldn't be surprised if they kill Din Djarin next episode, leaving Baby Yoda to goo-goo gaga in a sickeningly cute way for Bo-Katan now, for another few seasons of bitter disappointment, which I won't be around to see. If this ratings decline is accurate, it begs the question, what went wrong with Jon Favreau? Now, what I'm about to share with you is not a rumor. I've asked my Hollywood spies, I've asked other sources, and no one has been able to provide even a rumor about what the hell caused Favreau to suck this season. And suck this season did. So what I'm about to share with you is simply my speculation, my own intuition based on what I know of the situation over there. This is kind of a post-mortem, I suppose. A forensic examination on the cause and time of death for the Star Wars franchise prior to getting into the morgue and breaking out the hacksaw. I've reported previously that Jon Favreau nearly quit in disgust at how his show had been sabotaged by the firing of Gina, the snarky harassment of Kennedy, and the interference of Disney marketing that essentially derailed his plans for Luke and Grogu, forcing him to abandon that storyline and return Baby Yoda to gibber incoherently at Mando for another damn season. From what I understood, Favreau was ready to make a good faith effort to course correct with a new storyline. But it seems clear to me that somewhere around episode 2 of this season, something happened. Something bad. I wonder if word came from on high that Iger or some other authority had decided to pull the plug on his plans, and they told Favreau, yeah, we've decided we're going with the sequel trilogy, so make sure to line up your show to intersect with that timeline, and I don't want to hear any protests in the trades or any leaks. Be a good soldier and fall on your sword. And then we started seeing public statements from Jon Favreau, like hostage videos, with Favreau saying, no one is controlling me, I'm doing the show as I see fit, no one is holding a blaster to my head off camera, heavens no. Methinks he doth protest too much. So if my speculation is true, and again, this is just speculation, but if this is more or less how it unfolded, then how would Jon Favreau signal that he was being held prisoner in a Chinese fortune cookie factory? He'd do it by making the show flip on its head, by making the show suck so badly it would raise these questions, like blinking a distress call in Morse code in a hostage video. But the biggest tell of all, the huge distress signal that I believe tells us everything we need to know, was the death of Paz Vizsla. It turns out that Paz was Jon Favreau's alter ego on this show, a role that he voiced and was personally identified with. On Season 3, Episode 7 of The Mandalorian, Paz is killed by one of the Praetorian Guards from The Last Jedi. This is a chilling moment on the show, when Favreau kills his own character off at the hands of a cheesy extra from the sequel trilogy. This is the smoking gun, my friends. This is no accident. Favreau is telling us here that the forces of evil inside Lucasfilm have triumphed, and despite his best efforts, like a Sith, Kennedy has once again risen from the grave, and now the sequel trilogy is killing the last vestige of real Star Wars off, and Favreau is signaling his protest for any with ears to hear. What other possible interpretation could there be? How much clearer could the symbolism be of new Star Wars killing off old Star Wars? Here, Favreau is warning us as best he can in code. Abandon Star Wars. Move along, folks. There's nothing to see here. I did my best, but in the end, I was defeated. If Favreau was down with all of this, if he was really good with it, there's no way he'd write such terrible and clumsy scripts. He'd massage Bo-Katan into getting the Darksaber. He'd never allow the Jack Black bullshit. Say what you will about Favreau, he never ever sucked this bad. Could it be he's phoning it in the worst possible way because he's given up? And while he cannot convey that publicly, he can signal it with writing so atypically awful. He hoped the fans would notice and get the message that he's been deactivated and Star Wars is beyond hope now. One other possibility is simply that rumors that Iger's getting ready to sell Star Wars are true, and Jon Favreau knows that the writing is on the wall and this ride is about to end, and he just is checked out. He just doesn't care anymore. That is also a possibility. But all of this is speculation, my friends, not rumor. But if I do hear anything concrete about this from my spies in the future, I promise I will let you know. But at this point, Star Wars is dead to me until proven otherwise. From the center of the earth, this is Dictor Van Doomcock bidding you all, my friends, stay angry. Ha 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 ha.